What's up, everyone? Michael here with the news and such. Yes, it's that time of week again to where I remember to record a video. Yeah, that's a thing we can do. We're going to be going over the news from April 11th to April 17th, 2021. We're going to be covering all the gaming news stuff that I saw that was pretty interesting. All these links and stuff are also posted in the description as well as on our gaming Discord called the Broken Chat Box. If you'd like to submit news stories and stuff like that to end up putting into these, then yeah, check out the Discord and put it in there. I don't know why I'm advertising at the beginning of the video. People don't like that. Anyways, we're gonna be going over some free games that I found this week. We're gonna be going over a bunch of news articles, with the main article talking about some random drama from somebody lying on Reddit causing a big issue in accessibility. We'll talk about that. And then of course some smaller news articles that we're basically just gonna read the headline and have a short snippet about it. So yeah, there we go. Got a lot of news articles this week, apparently. I always used to think that there wasn't many news articles during the whole pandemic thing, and looking back at it, no, there's actually a lot of news going on. Just a lot of it's kind of petty news, if I'm honest, but we'll explain why. Anyways, first off, let's go ahead and look at some free games. So I have this new capture thingy. Boom. Yeah, can show it on screen. All right, so first, there's actually 3 games, or technically 5 games, free on the Epic Game Store this week. And so the first one is actually a trilogy of the Deponia series, the complete journey. And so it actually comes with 3 of the Deponia games. Basically, they are click and point adventure / puzzle games. And I've never actually played them, but they look fairly interesting. I just don't really like point and click adventures enough to really go through and end up playing it. But yeah, they call it an adventure comedy puzzle. And so yeah, apparently it's pretty dang good. And it's got some adult humor in it, which is why it's called, or not called, rated M17+. So yes, I've heard that this one is highly recommended for people who like point and click adventures, so definitely check that one out. Into the next one is Ken Follets' The Pillars of the Earth. I keep wanting to say Pillars of Eternity, but it's not Pillars of Eternity. It's The Pillars of the Earth, which I've actually never played this one, and I know basically virtually nothing about it. Supposedly it's like a story-based game or whatever. It's got this really interesting story, like book kind of art style and stuff, which kind of likes. Oh, oof, that would have gotten me demonetized. All right, actually, I can't even monetize my videos. What am I talking about? I'm just memeing. But yeah, I love the art style and I love the way it looks, but I know nothing about it. Apparently, it's a story-based game. So yeah, another game that's probably worth checking out. Definitely seems pretty cool if that's your sort of thing, and it seems pretty dark and about the Middle Ages and stuff. You can obviously see the description down here if you ever want to read it. And then on to the next game, The First Tree. This is another one that I know pretty much nothing about, but it looks like a small exploration sort of indie type game. Personally, these are the types of games that I would probably never really recommend to most people unless you're just looking for something to like chill out to. It looks really pretty, it looks kind of cool. But it does kind of remind me, especially since the footage that it shows for like their little trailer here is so short. It kind of reminds me of games like was it Rime? I think it was Rime, to where like the idea was that you're supposed to explore, but there wasn't much to explore. Either way, it's free this week, so go ahead and pick it up if that's totally your thing. But yeah, it looks interesting enough. Like if you like these styles of games, it might be worth picking up, but honestly, it doesn't really seem all that interesting to me. There's tons of these types of games out there, but it is free, so go ahead and pick that up if you've got the time for it. So there you go. That is the end of my capture thingy for what I do. And back to the footage of whatever game I end up picking for this week to show off in the background. And on to the actual news. Here's some more in-depth news articles. Now, a lot of the news this week kind of revolves around a couple of topics, and so there's going to be a lot of stuff to where we just constantly pile onto it, so get ready for that. The first one on the list is Activision is involved in a trademark dispute with a web game called Warzone. Yes, because of Call of Duty Warzone, a game called Warzone, which is at warzone.com, it looks actually kind of cool, is like actually getting a bunch of negative press because of Call of Duty Warzone. And it's basically ruined its visibility on platforms such as Twitch, for example, or its search results on Google, or Bing, if you use Bing, or whatever other search engine. What other search? I guess DuckDuckGo? I haven't actually tried DuckDuckGo. I should try DuckDuckGo. Anyways, I have used DuckDuckGo, I just didn't try it for this, because I looked it up on Bing and Google, and if you type in Warzone, it comes up with Call of Duty Warzone. Anyways, so basically the developer of the web game has basically been like, hey, I'm gonna go after Activision, because Activision has been pushing around the idea that they can just do whatever they want, and this is actually a legitimate thing. However, Warzone is not the first game to ever use the name Warzone. However, it is the first game to ever have the name exclusively as just Warzone. So it is somewhat interesting in that sort of case. At least that's what this article states. I haven't found any other game called Warzone, but Warzone is a fairly common word to put into a game, especially since we have a lot of games with war in it. That's kind of like a central idea, is to have a conflict, and war is a very central kind of conflict when it comes down to human history. So Warzone is probably going to come up in gaming quite a lot, and there are tons of game titles with Warzone in it. Therefore, I don't actually think this has a whole lot of standing, but it is kind of true. Like, it is sort of the idea that, yes, Call of Duty Warzone is going to ruin your search results, especially since you picked a game called Warzone. However, I think that was a bit short-sighted to call your game Warzone, because Warzone is very clearly going to be a word designed specifically for video games in this sort of context, because, again, war is such a historical significance to humans that it creates conflict, has a lot of drama, has a lot of whatever you can call it. So it's gonna be a big deal, and it's gonna be referenced in video games, and so obviously it's gonna be in a bunch of titles. And obviously I had never heard of Warzone.com. Apparently it's been around for quite a few years now. So yeah, I don't know. But the idea is that Activision-Blizzard is calling in for getting trademarks and stuff like that for Call of Duty Warzone, and Warzone.com doesn't like that very well. And that goes into the next news article, which is Warzone developer starts a GoFundMe for legal battle against Activision, who also have a game called Warzone. Yes, this is another title that is, like I said, a lot of this is going to be stacking on top of each other. So yeah, basically, they're kind of saying hey, obviously Activision has a lot of money, and a developer of a little web game probably doesn't. So basically, what I already said is his case to this. It has buried the game when it comes down to search results. It's buried it on Twitch, etc., etc. And so Ficker, I guess is the name of the developer, launched Warzone in 2017. So yeah, it came out in 2017. I was curious on the release date. I just found it by skimming. But yeah, so basically he started a GoFundMe, and he wants people to actually help him to sue Activision, which, for as noble as the idea of taking down the large corporate overlords that currently rule AAA gaming, I don't think this actually has much of a chance of going anywhere, because again, Warzone is kind of generic. Now, if Activision-Blizzard is trying to take down Warzone.com, then that makes sense, but I don't think that's what's happening. At least that's not what it makes sense in my head. At least not from reading these articles and such. If that is the case, then definitely I would say it's a good cause, but I think if he's just trying to go after Call of Duty Warzone for burying his game, I think that's a little bit not correct in the sort of sense that we're going for this. But yeah, another interesting tidbit from this news article is that apparently he's been getting people that were playing Call of Duty Warzone. Now, let's be honest, people playing Call of Duty are not the highest on the brain cell count, but they've been apparently contacting the developer of this web game called Warzone about things about Call of Duty Warzone, which seems a bit ridiculous to me. I feel like you would realize in some sort of part in that supply chain, you'd be like, wait a minute, this isn't correct. This random guy's Gmail isn't Activision Blizzard, but I guess most people don't really know. Call of Duty draws in a lot of casual players, especially players that just kind of play every single year. And I've met people that play Call of Duty and don't even know it's published by Activision Blizzard, which it states very clearly when you start up the game. So I could easily see that happening, but at the same time, it's going to happen with any sort of game that has similar names. We've heard this happening with a bunch of different types of titles from all over the place. So that's just going to happen. I think he's going to have to deal with it. I do think it sucks in that sort of sense. I do think it sucks that his game that kind of looks interesting. It's like a little strategy sort of war game on the web and stuff. So you can end up trying it out. It's Warzone.com. Yeah, I think it kind of sucks that it got buried. And that just is what happens with games nowadays. There's too many games, and too many titles end up being too similar. And even games with really unique titles end up getting really, really buried underneath all of the AAA stuff that's currently out. So that's just the thing that's going to happen. I don't think that this lawsuit has much standing, but at the same time, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take that as any sort of legal advice. I just think it's kind of ridiculous because games are going to have the name Warzone in it. So yeah, and there's other games that have the name Warzone in it, quite a few in my library, such as Anomaly Warzone as well, which is a fantastic tower defense game. Anyways, I'm just recommending games now. And let's talk about GPUs. Woo! This is exciting for several different reasons viewers of my channel will realize in a few days, but currently for now, let's go ahead and talk about some other types of stuff. The popularity of cryptocurrency mining graphics cards let me try that again. The popularity of cryptocurrency mining graphics cards may have surprised even Nvidia. So Nvidia has been using a CMP lineup of its graphics cards now. They've actually started to produce graphics cards specifically for mining cryptocurrency. Now, in the past, we've seen cryptocurrency go up and down, so it'll rise a bunch of money and then it'll end up having a crash or whatever. And it sort of got to a point to where it was sort of stabilizing out. And it seemed like it was going to stay there for quite a while. It was like a year and a half or something like that, to where the market mostly sort of stabilized. Like, it was slightly increasing as time went on, as adoption came into play, but whatever happened, I haven't really figured out exactly what happened. I haven't found like an article that actually explains it in a way that makes a whole lot of sense, but cryptocurrency basically exploded. Like, the idea of mining for cryptocurrency is not new by any stretch of the imagination, nor is the fact of using cryptocurrency. However, certain circumstances ended up making it more appealing to use cryptocurrency and use it and invest in cryptocurrency as well, which that's a major point. The investment into cryptocurrency is generating a lot of this revenue, and the fact that people are using it more and more for different types of services, not just, dubious ones, because everyone thinks about Bitcoin as being on the dark web or whatever and being, untraceable. But the reality is that there's a lot of cryptocurrencies now that are being used in genuine ways, as in they're being used for all different types of services. For example, you can buy video games with cryptocurrency. So people are able to mine cryptocurrency on their machine or are able to trade it, and they're able to actually buy video games, for example. And you can do this with pretty much anything. And there's credit cards that also run off of cryptocurrency now. So cryptocurrency has exploded. There was a huge boom again, and a lot of manufacturers are really skeptical of investing into it. However, Nvidia realized that the impact on their gaming GPU market has been significant enough that they should end up investing in this. And this boom has been lasting for quite a long while now. And so CMP cards have hit the market. So these CMP cards are essentially just GPUs that don't have like video outputs and such, because the way cryptocurrency mining works is that you have the GPU kind of solving these complex algorithms, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to get too much into the technical details, but essentially you run it on a GPU to do so. And so once you end up solving that puzzle, so to speak, on that GPU, you then get rewarded and such as that. So that's kind of like how it works. So you need a GPU to run it. This is why a lot of cryptocurrency miners are getting GPUs, including gaming GPUs. So they don't actually have it hooked up to a monitor or anything. They're not running any sort of visual program. They're just running algorithms on it and just running complex sort of problems. And so that's what they're kind of selling. They're selling these graphics cards that don't have visual outputs. And apparently it's done exceedingly well. So launched last month, Nvidia has initially expected a return of 50 million from its CMP lineup. In a short period of time, however, it has scaled up to 3 times to 150 million for these cards' first 3 months. That is an insane amount of money for something that was considered an extremely risky business decision. Now, whether Nvidia actually stays making CMP cards for the long term is yet to be seen. However, gamers have definitely felt this sort of impact when it comes down to these miners actually buying cards. And one unfortunate reality is that CMP cards are still going to be taking away resources from standard cards, and currently right now, if you know about the current GPU market during the COVID-19 pandemic, the kind of market is really, really short-handed, as in we don't have a lot of cards in the market that we can actually purchase. And so gamers that want to have cards for gaming can't get a hold of it. Now, Nvidia was hoping that CMP cards would actually end up sort of alleviating this, but unfortunately it seems like all of those CMP cards are selling out very, very quickly, and they're getting a lot of investment towards actually making them. And so it's kind of a big deal because CMP cards are also being sold out while normal gaming GPUs are also being sold out. So it's just such a high demand. Like, it is so hard to not understate how high the demand is for graphics cards, which is going to go into a bunch of other news articles, because the next one is cryptocurrency mining has started eroding graphics card warranties in some territories. That's right, we're talking more about cryptocurrency and graphics cards. So one thing that cryptocurrency mining does is it does degrade your graphics card, because you're running it at higher temperatures, you're running it constantly, like non-stop, as in these mining rigs normally run 24/7. They're trying to solve these complex algorithms and complex problems, And that takes a lot of computation power. And if they want to get the best reward, they got to put in the most time. Therefore, these cards are running extremely hot for extremely long periods of time. Now, there are ways that they can alleviate this. I have details in a future video that I'll be doing talking about this sort of thing. But the general concept is that these cards are going to degrade much, much quicker than anything else. If you're somebody who games a lot, your card will last several years very, very easily, right? However, if you're mining, all those times to where you're sleeping or you're not running a game, or maybe you close down your game to reboot it or whatever, none of those downtimes exist. So that's why this is happening. Basically, MSI has slashed their warranty to their cards in certain countries, such as Russia, down to just 6 months, which is much, much shorter than what would usually happen. And I guess Gigabyte has done the same thing, except they've gone down to 90 days, which is pretty scary for the average gamer, because it's not uncommon for a graphics card to go faulty within 2 months of use, which is pretty scary. And that also means that if something happened to your card without, like, after that 90-day kind of warranty, then you may not actually be able to return your card, even if you didn't actually mine on it, which is quite concerning. Now, obviously the objective of this is to make it so that people don't burn out their cards cryptocurrency mining and then just send it in to get a free one so that they can continue cryptocurrency mining for more. The idea is that they don't want people returning these burnt out cards saying that they're faulty, when in reality they just burnt them out by overuse and not properly volting them, like down volting them, so that they could run at those sort of extreme lengths of time without actually burning themselves out. Because one thing that you can do on a mining rig is you can drop down the temperatures to try and make it run more stable for a longer period of time, and it can drastically increase the lifespan of your card and evidently save you money because you don't have to buy a new card. But one way that they were kind of scalping out to try and get more money out of these cards is that they were sending them in for repairs. This obviously isn't going to last. Manufacturers have got onto this, and so a lot of people will just have their cards just sent straight back to them, being like, hey, we detected that you've burnt this thing to hell. Like, it is completely destroyed, so they actually don't even fix it or whatever, but that still causes them an overhead. So just straight striking out this sort of warranty time that normally lasts quite a long time is kind of scary for a lot of gamers, but at the same time, it makes sense because graphics cards normally have a pretty long warranty. I'm trying to remember what my 1070 has on its warranty. It finally ran out like a month or two ago, I think. But they have like a 3-year warranty or something along those lines, like a pretty long warranty. So this is a pretty heavy cut when it comes down to that. Now, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing is going to be up to everyone's interpretation. I think that it would be much better if they had some sort of way to detect whether people would burnt their cards out or not. And I think they need to start sort of slimming down what they'll actually replace / repair cards for. I think that they need to start thinking about ways to like kind of mitigate overuse or self-damaging, which is in most warranties, that's already kind of the case. As I said, like some miners have tried sending in their cards and just getting it back and be like, no, like we're not repairing this. What are you talking about? And there are definitely cases to where I've had people just kind of accidentally like spill water on their card and they wouldn't get replaced or whatever. I won't say any manufacturer names because I can't say whether it was like an isolated case or not, but that has happened. So it's like, okay, you ruined this card. It's not faulty, whatever. But I have also had the case to where a card has gone faulty after 2 or 3 months and had to send it back in and get a new one. And they're like, oh, hey, yeah, sorry about that. You know, this was wrong with it or whatever. And we gave you a refurbished one or we just gave you a brand new one. So that has happened. I remember my first PC that I built was a GTX 660 build. And yeah, the 660 went faulty after 3 months. And that was sad. Actually, no, I think it was less than 3 months. I think it was 2 months. I think that was one that was 2 months. That really sucked. It had some graphics memory fault in it, which caused black boxes to appear all over my games, and I was very confused. I didn't know much about graphics cards back then. Anyways, on to the next article, which, yes, has to do with graphics cards. Graphics card stock got you down. A reported 788% 1-month rise in bad bot activity might be to blame. So, basically, some security analysts, according to the data from cybersecurity firm Imperva. There you go. I've never heard of them, but anyways, they are a security firm that actually specializes in checking out networks and activity when it comes into websites and checking out for bots and things like that. And so basically they have a distinction real quick. They say bad bot activity. They actually have a distinction between good bots and bad bots. And they actually talk in this article shortly about how there's good bots that are actually checking stocks and such like that, which is something that I've actually looked at and such. And it's the idea that these bots are good bots because they are actively looking for information to supply to human beings to actually look into markets and to buy graphics cards. However, there are bad bots that go in, they either make it more difficult for the humans can't buy graphics cards, and then they also go in and automatically try to buy graphics cards, or they try to skip security, they try to skip verification, they try to skip payment details, etc., etc. There's a ton of them that I'll talk about in a future video, but in the basis of this, basically they saw a gigantic spike when it came down to holiday season. They said 1 month it was about 788% increase between September and October 2020 alone. That is a massive spike in bot activity. Now, to keep in mind, there was also a lot of high profile releases, and this is no small part due to the PlayStation 5's, the Xbox Series X, and Nvidia and AMD both releasing new graphics cards that are highly capable at extremely good prices for their performance. And so this makes it much more appealing to actually get a hold of these cards. And not only that, there's also a shortage, and so more people are sort of resorting to these bots to try and get these cards. And on the more malicious end, we have bots actually buying up these cards to try and resell them at a scalped price, as in 2 to 3 times the cost of these graphics cards, or consoles, as in the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Now, the consoles have been getting slightly easier to get a hold of as more people have the consoles. Like, there's nothing else you're going to do with a console besides have the console and play games on it. But the graphics cards themselves haven't actually gotten easier, and the bots have gotten more aggressive when it comes down to buying these. Websites are doing quite a lot to go against this. There are a lot of like strategies that websites are actually taking against these. But these bad bots are also doing things such as DDoSing, which is a denial of service attack. And then there are also other certain types of bots that are actually just going through and trying to basically manipulate websites to have certain crashes at certain periods of times before and after drops of their stock. So yeah, there's a lot of types of terrible bots out there, and this report says that it's a 788% in 1 month, and it continued to increase at about that rate as the months progress. And there is a full report which you can actually view. It is linked in the description with this news article, so you can go ahead and check that out. I think it is behind a paywall. Is it behind a paywall, or is it just... Okay, I think there's another link. I think I found the wrong link. I'll try to find it. If I do, I'll put it in the description if I remember. I have a long editing time after this. But yeah, so if you're wondering why it's so hard to get graphics cards, there are a ton of reasons. But because of the shortage of graphics cards and because of their high demand, bots are going in to try and replace human beings and try to get their hands on as many graphics cards as they want. And crypto miners are also using these bots to try and pick these up as well. It is very difficult to actually buy one as a human being. There are a lot of strategies that you can take. Again, I'll talk about this in a future video, but it is very, very difficult, and bots are one of them. And a lot of websites are changing their strategies because of these bots. And the scariest part about this report is that this issue might actually get worse. As in, it's going to become easier to make bots. It's going to get more complex because it is constantly a race when it comes down to these sorts of situations. As in, the bots want these things, and so they're going to make, or the bot makers, I should say, want these things, and they're going to try and circumvent whatever strategy each website ends up using. But at the same time, as you update them, they're just going to keep trying to circumvent these new issues. And so I think the best strategy, as a personal opinion, this isn't mentioned in the article, I think the best situation would be that every single website tries to do different things all at once, and then everyone's trying these different strategies so that bot makers have to sort of adapt to more and more things. Because what we've seen in the past when it comes down to things like anti-cheat is that all the anti-cheats will try almost exactly the same strategy at the same time. And then once somebody cracks one, they've cracked them all. So I think that one thing that's actually been really, really interesting about this stock shortage is that a lot of websites that have promised to sort of counter these bots, which Amazon is not one of them, just a warning. Just as a a thing about all these websites is that they're actually all doing different types of strategies, whether they're trying raffles, they're trying queues, they're trying all these different types of strategies that to try and kind of curb these bots, which is really cool. However, it's going to continue to be a problem and it might get worse. However, there is the idea that maybe, and this is just sort of speculation on the side, that there is another possibility that once the sort of like shortages sort of go away, we may see a decline in all these bots since the incentive is definitely not there anymore. And that's most likely what will happen. I think that once the shortages is out and it's no longer difficult for humans to buy the products that they want, I think that at the same time, the people who are making those bots will also be able to get the product that they want. Unfortunately, during times of shortages, this is going to be an increasing problem, and it's going to affect gamers a lot because tech is limited, and it's probably going to become more limited, and that's not going to just go away in the next year or so. That's going to become an increasing problem, especially as demand increases and increases. So yeah, there we go. Also, one thing that I really love about this article is Imperva calls those bots specifically targeting high-value items at Christmas Grinch bots. I love that. I love that term. I love it so much. But yeah, and it is important to keep in mind that not all bots are bad. There are bots out there that will do things like such as checking the stock and availability of items. Like those bots, for example, have lasted for a very, very long time, and they've always been beneficial to human beings because those bots themselves don't actually go out and buy things. They just tell users and give users more information. And as such, a lot of these sort of security firms and advocates are saying that they probably shouldn't do anything about those bots and instead should embrace it and supply APIs when possible so that we don't have to use bots to do so. We can just check an API, which would be quite lovely, actually. I wish more websites had an API, and I feel like a lot of the problems that came down from the shortages would have been much better if those APIs were actually up to date and maintained for every single retailer, which would be super, super nice. Unfortunately, very few retailers actually have these APIs, and ones that do are often really flimsy and really late and very faulty in a sense, as in it'll give like false information about their stock. So yeah, ain't great, but that's something for the future, I guess. It's something that we're gonna have to look more into, and I think that them having an API would actually improve their website's performance as well, because a lot of these bots also cause heavy traffic because they're constantly sending requests, which also degrades the experience for human users, and it costs them money to keep getting these requests as well. So yeah, there's incentive to make things better for everyone. All right, let's talk more about GPUs. So this one seems a little bit weird, given the shortages and how we've talked about cryptocurrency and crypto miners and bots buying out all of the GPUs, but gaming is a big reason why PC shipments remain strong despite a silicon shortage. So for like one of the major reasons why we have a shortage in GPUs and tech in general, to be honest, and why it's going to get worse and not better is that we don't have a whole lot of silicon. As in, we're kind of running out of places to get silicon. Like, there's plenty of places on Earth to get silicon, right? But a lot of them are not optimal to get to, and it's going to be really expensive to get that, which means that silicon prices are going up. And a lot of those areas are either where things are developed, far off from where things are developed, as in too far, or they're in situations to where we just simply can't gather it. And so a lot of the easy places to get silicon has kind of been burning up over the last forever, basically, since we've been kind of making tech forever for like 15 years or so. Like, we've been using silicon for more than 15 years. How long have we been using silicon? I'm just now thinking about that, and that's crazy to think about how long we've been using silicon and haven't run out at this point. Anyways, I guess we haven't run out of a lot of things. But yeah, so silicon is in short supply right now. Not only is it getting more expensive, but it's also just we don't have like a supply. And so a lot of chip manufacturers, wafers and things like that use silicon are kind of running out. I said wafers, that's not correct. Anyways, a lot of things that are using silicon are kind of running out. That's completely relevant to this news article. Anyways, this news article has some data tracked by IDC and another data firm called Gartner? I've seen that name. I haven't heard it said before, but I've seen it a lot. Gardner. I think it's Gartner. Anyways, yeah, so they both have different statistics on the actual increases when it comes down to the actual sales of these GPUs, such as IDC says the global The global shipments of PCs in the first quarter of 2021 grew by a staggering 55.2%. And then if I can find Gartner, says that it was a 32% increase from year over year. So yeah, basically from last year to this year, we've seen a huge increase, as in Gartner is saying that in 2019 to 2020, we saw a 32% increase when it comes down to the statistical likelihood in 2021, whereas IDC is saying that it is a straight up increase of 55.2% over last year in its first quarter. So like, this is a pretty big deal, as in more gamers are actually getting interested in PC gaming, and they are saying that this is a major reason why these sort of increases in sales are happening. And part of this sort of feels a bit tone deaf to the current situation, because I do feel like PC parts in general are also increasing just as the demand for computers in general has increased, as in there's a lot of markets that are outside of PC gaming, and they're just only attributing like a large portion of this. I think though that there are a lot of like corporate entities that are actually buying a lot more computer components in general. And I think that building your own computer for work purposes has become much, much more common, and upgrading your existing machine has become definitely more common. And I could see that becoming a huge player inside of this, but there is definitely no or that's the wrong way to say that. It's definitely no small part in this when it comes down to actual PC gaming. PC gaming has been growing constantly, like year over year. I know that there's a lot of like advocates and like the weird polygons or IGNs or whatever of the world like to say like PC gaming's dead. Here's the next console. Here's all the console gaming stuff. But quite honestly, all of that's clickbait just to kind of get into the whole like console war thing. But honestly, PC gaming has been growing forever, and a lot of people are getting into PC gaming as it's gotten easier and easier to get into, and there's a lot of cheaper components. Ignoring the shortages and the current situation, PC parts aren't actually normally all that hard to get. And so the accessibility of all these PC parts and the increased production of them, included with the idea that people are just more interested on gaming on PC, kind of would increase this. So it's interesting to see these statistics. I think that it's kind of a cool thing to actually have these sort of actual concrete details on these sort of ideas of like what's actually going into these sorts of increases. I think it's important as well, because manufacturers can look at this and be like, hey, maybe we should make more gaming GPUs so they don't sell out on the market all the time. But, you know, who am I, just besides some YouTuber? But the idea is that, yeah, it's cool to see these statistics, and gaming has definitely played a huge part in it. But I do think that these analysts need to remember that there are a lot more that PCs do, and I think that actually buying individual components to upgrade your machine has become much, much more popular inside of a corporate space as well. So I think that's also going to be another part of it. And of course, we have the pandemic this year going on still, and so that could easily have affected it, because a lot of people are still at home quite a lot, or just working from home in general, which again could come into play when upgrading their sort of machine to actually do workstation stuff as well. So yay. Into stuff that isn't GPU related, Sony invests another $200 million into Epic's vision for the Metaverse. So this is kind of a complicated topic I don't really want to get into, because the whole Metaverse thing is it's a little convoluted, but at the same time it makes sense. Like, it's kind of a cool idea. The idea is the Metaverse is the idea that we have this sort of digital space to where everything is connected and everyone's involved in it, as in like there is the real verse and then there is the metaverse. The metaverse is the idea that we have an individual identity inside the metaverse that carries across all platforms, all devices, all software, etc., etc. And that idea is actually really cool. I like that idea, but at the same time, it's not exactly feasible in our current setup, but Epic wants to kind of do that. They've been working on a lot of infrastructure type stuff, and a lot of their Unreal Engine 4 type of stuff actually heavily involves this sort of cross-platform inclusivity, which is actually kind of cool. Now, I'm not going to go over this whole article. It's kind of semi-long, and there's a big talk that Tim Sweeney actually did in 2020 talking about this sort of stuff that is actually definitely worth a watch. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, do check out the link in the description or over in our gaming Discord called The Broken Chat Box. Advertise again. Yeah, but Sony has actually been investing in Epic quite often, and a lot of people are kind of confused about this. I know a lot of people like to hate on Epic Games for a lot of stuff that they've done, mainly Fortnite, I guess. But yeah, there's been a lot of investment from big corporations kind of going into Epic Games when it comes down to this sort of stuff. So yeah, and the reason is because they've got some cool ideas, and they do run things like the Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5, when it ends up releasing, is going to be a big player in all gaming markets, not just like Epic Store stuff or Fortnite, for example. So a lot of these companies invest in Epic because it's just a smart idea, because they make something that actually makes them money as well. So it's kind of like investing in a return. But the idea here is that they are actually giving them money to actually sort of work on the Metaverse type stuff and help build it. And that's pretty much all we got. It doesn't really specify anything other than it's the Metaverse type of stuff. So cross-platform games, cross-platform like play, shared APIs, sort of account linking and stuff like that type of thing. So yeah, interesting enough. I think it's interesting that Sony is putting more money into it, but it also doesn't surprise me whatsoever, except for the fact that Sony is very adverse to the idea of crossplay with their Sony titles, which seems super bizarre to me, but whatever. So yes, it does actually surprise me. I was being sarcastic. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Valve Anti-Cheat's permanent ban has one major exception now, which is basically if you are a pro player and you were banned 5 years ago from VAC, apparently it won't stop you going into actual professional games things now. What's a way to say this? I guess esports? Yeah, esport events. I'm not a big follower of esports. I thought it was really interesting when I used to follow things like League of Legends or CSGO and stuff. But quite honestly, a lot of the people that are kind of featured there have no personality. And I found no like entertainment value outside of watching high level play. And high level play is amazing to watch. Like a lot of those like kids and adults that play for those tournaments are incredible. Like it is a real sport. Like it is 100% worth paying attention to if you're into that. But I just don't care about sports, and therefore esports don't really pay that much homage to me. I don't really care. Like it's just the thing. I like to watch it occasionally for like high level play just to actually see what they're doing, and I think that's kind of cool to see. But yeah, one major issue with that though that came down to CSGO specifically was the fact that if you had ever had your account VAC banned, you were barred from actually joining into any of the esport tournaments. And this also ended up going into also those team buildings, as in teams that were being built would like exclude people that had been VAC banned as well. Now that doesn't specifically like play into Valve's statement on like if you've been VAC banned you can't go into the tournaments. They would just have to have those teammates sit out. However, if you're building a team, you want that team to be able to play in every single game. And there's a lot of players that just had to jump off of CSGO because they got VAC banned for whatever reason. Now, I do think that most of those players probably deserve that ban, but there is an argument for redemption. Now, I've talked about redemption in the past before. I'm a strong believer in redemption. I believe that people can improve themselves if they actually try hard. It's not common. Most people don't. Most people are just sucky for their entire lives because that's just how they are, and they decide never to change, and they just think that that's how their life has to be, and they don't ever try to improve. However, not everyone's like that, and there are edge cases to where people will improve themselves. So obviously, these people that come back from being VAC banned are probably going to be under heavier scrutiny. However, certain users that have been banned, for example, it mentions one player, players like Elias Jompi, I'm gonna butcher this name, Alkanen? I think it's Alkanen. I think that's an L. I don't know if it's an I or not. Anyways, who received a VAC ban back in 2015 when he was just 14 years old. So like users like that, like when they were just like a teenager or something like that and just ended up getting banned for some stupid thing. Now he claims that he was letting a friend use his account to play games, and then his friend got that account VAC banned or whatever. And I guess he just stayed on the account, because once you end up investing money into a Steam account, as most people probably know, you don't just want to throw away the account. That's not a thing you want to do because you put money into that. There's a lot of money in our Steam accounts these days. So yeah, there's a lot of games in your Steam account you just don't want to jump off. And the fact that he owned that account at any point in time still would have barred him from joining tournaments. And he had to kind of leave the CSGO high-level play scene and actually went into Valorant, it says in this article. So basically, he was kind of barred from playing a game he wanted to because when he was 14, his friend got his account banned. Now, whether or not that story is actually true on his friend getting it banned or not doesn't change the fact that that was 5 years ago, or more than 5 years ago now. It would have been like 5.5, I guess. How long is it into 2021? It's been a long year already. The idea is that it's been 5 years. Like, people can change in 5 years and people can definitely improve themselves. Now, I do think that if they have a track record of continuously cheating, then they need to be banned permanently. Like, I think that after a certain point, there is a sort of kind of policy that you need to have to where it's like, okay, enough is enough. However, most of these cheaters don't get more than one chance to cheat. They just get banned and they're never coming back. Either that, or if it's a minor offense, it will just be like, you know, you can't be in a tournament for this year or whatever, which is still a pretty big deal for these tournament players. They rely on that money to survive. But at the same time, like, you can't just go into these tournaments and cheat. Like, that's insane. Like, you can't just do that. So yeah, but 5 years is definitely more than enough to actually redeem yourself, in my opinion. I think in 5 years, like, 5 years is a long time. That is a ridiculous amount of time. So like, in 5 years, you could redeem yourself. I would even say like in 2 years, somebody could redeem themselves, though I think it's much less common that somebody would redeem themselves in 2 years. I think 5 years is definitely a far sort of cutoff, but it's definitely a reasonable cutoff, especially when it comes down to these tournament plays. And I think it's mostly aimed at younger players that end up kind of getting banned, because now this guy is that's how math works. He's like 19 or 20 years old, probably 20. And so like, barring him for something he did stupidly when he was a teenager is kind of ridiculous. So the idea that they're actually letting these players come into these tournaments is actually a really good thing, in my opinion. Some people will disagree. Some people will think that if you cheat, you should just be banned for life, you know, make it as a constant reminder. But keep in mind that CSGO, for example, has been in the like competitive scene for a very, very long time, for the lifespan of some of these players. So like, it's going to be keeping going and going. And if esports wants to be recognized as an actual like large sport and actually have a continued user base, these games have to last much, much longer. And so eventually they're going to have a policy like this, and Valve has just decided now is the time. Now, other companies don't normally have a sort of ban policy like this. They normally just ban them for a couple of years, like I was talking about earlier. They'll be like, oh, you can't compete in like 1 or 2 years worth of tournaments, which is a big deal. But at the same time, it's like, yes. And I think the mentality behind those has been like, okay, 2 years is enough for that person to realize their mistake and fix it. Most of them don't. Most of them come back and cheat again and then get permanently banned. But hey, that's just life, I guess. If somebody's going to cheat, then they're going to cheat and they should be banned forever. That's just how it's going to go eventually. Because if they keep doing it, they're obviously not going to change, at least not within a time that's reasonable. So yeah, that's an interesting article. I was going to have that as the main article because it's kind of a long discussion, but whatever. We'll go on to the next one. Nintendo suing Switch hacker Gary Bowser. I love a certain quote in this article. Is where is it? Oh my god, I gotta find it. Oh my goodness, I forgot how long this article was. Where is it? Okay, hold on. I posted it in the Discord, so I'll just bring it up on the Discord because I don't want to have to just sit here and skim through the entire thing. Where is it? Oh my goodness. Oh no, I didn't post it in Discord. I posted it in an in-game chat. Ah! All right, anyways. Oh, here it is. People who click on the article in the description are going to look at me and be like, what, dude? All right, anyways. That's right. Oh my goodness. Now that I looked for it, I can't even talk properly. That's right. President of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser, is suing a Nintendo hacker called Gary Bowser. This is the battle of the Bowsers in court. Yeah, seems pretty epic. So anyways, let's give some background. So the 51-year-old Canadian national Bowser, I guess that's where he's from. I don't know why I mentioned that. It's in the article. It's right at the beginning. I was already reading it to begin with. Who's allegedly a member of the Switch hacking creators team, Executor, I think is how you say it. It's Executer. I don't know how to say it. They've actually been in the scene for a very, very long time. We'll talk more about it in a second. But yeah, basically, one of the supposed hackers in this group is now in federal custody under charges that they violated copyright law and they were basically doing illegal activities with the hacked consoles and such that they were doing. Now, whether your opinion on modifying your own hardware or not is moral has no bearing on legality, I should say. Like, legality and morality are two completely separate things and have nothing to do with each other. Personally, in my opinion, I think if you buy a device, especially a physical device, you should have the right to modify it however you see fit. If you want to add a chip to it, you should be able to add a chip to it. If you want to remove a chip for whatever reason, you should be able to do that. If you want to cut off the joystick, you should be able to do that. Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. But like, if you have a physical device, you should be able to modify. It's like putting a sticker on it. Like, if Nintendo started suing people for putting stickers on their device, they'd get a little bit upset. But the idea is that these hackers were actually going in and not only just modifying these consoles, but it doesn't mention this in the article, but it's mentioned in other articles about the same thing. And you can actually find large discussions about it over on communities such as on Reddit or in Discord communities as well, which I've participated in these sorts of discussions. So I have a little bit of a background knowledge when it comes down to this, especially since I'm sort of into the emulation scene and the sort of hacking, cracking scene as well. So basically what they were doing is they were actually using Nintendo proprietary like code and like not just reverse engineering, but actually using leaks and documentation and that sort of thing to actually hack these sort of systems. And that sort of came into some legality issues quite a while back. I think it was like a couple months ago. Nintendo was trying to sue the team in general, and they got them to move things. They got them to take things down. They like took a website down, I believe. And so like this has been an ongoing battle. And so they've actually been searching for these hackers that continually keep doing this sort of stuff to try to bring them into custody and get them under legal charges. Now, most of them are on soil that cannot be affected by the US government. However, this guy was in Canada, he was on US soil, and therefore he was able to actually be brought into custody. So like, I guess he left Canada, went into the US or something. Or maybe, I think we have like some sort of treaty with Canada to where maybe we can bring people over from Canada if they've done something illegal, and we actually prove to Canada that we can. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know all the legal stuff, but there you go. So the general idea is that, yeah, they were able to get this guy and bring him over to the US and get him into custody. So that's basically what's going on, is that they are trying to try him for copyright and illegal activity, effectively, which is kind of scary. I think that it's also super scary for people that are hacking these things, because even though they're kind of going for like the more criminal side of things, it kind of sets a precedent to where they can sort of like sue hackers and like bring them in and arrest them, which is scary. So yeah, basically it's a lawsuit. They're not actually arresting him, I guess, but he's under custody, it says. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, issued multiple federal charges against him. Yeah, so, in October, the U.S. government issued multiple federal charges against Bowser and alleged fellow Team Zero members. Max Lauren, I think? Lauren? Maybe it's Lauren. A 48-year-old French nationalist from Avignon. Can't say these words. And Yaning Chen, 35, from Shenzhen, China. So yeah, basically, that's it. Sorry, those are a lot of really hard words to say. So yeah, back in October, I guess, is when that ended up happening. And that's when I was talking about all the other types of stuff happening. So yeah, I guess they just ended up getting one more down to that. So he's not actually under arrest. He is being sued. There you go. So yeah, I guess I read that article a little bit wrong. I apologize for that. That's kind of how this goes when it's not really scripted all that much. Next article. All right, this is what my friend actually told me about, and I actually had to find an article to source it for this video. iOS users and only iOS users face not safe for work content ban on Discord app. Now, I know Discord technically isn't just gaming anymore, but it is definitely kind of bound into the gaming culture. Everyone that games pretty much knows about Discord. Everyone pretty much uses Discord for the most part. And so, yeah, even my sister, who's a non-gamer, has Discord for like one of her weird Disney Channel things. So like Discord's everywhere, but it's also has a lot of gaming, even though technically Discord is now branded as being a general chat program. Also another article I didn't put in my actual list to check out is that Discord is in talks of being bought out by larger companies such as Microsoft, which is another interesting thing. Did I talk about that last week? I don't remember when that happened, but I didn't put it in my link of articles to talk about. Anyways, let's talk about not safe for work content on iOS, because Apple has a huge lockdown. And basically, if you're on iOS and trying to use Discord, it has to come from the App Store. And unfortunately, like, Apple doesn't allow not safe for work content through the App Store. This goes into kind of Apple's wow, I'm losing my ability to talk. I apologize. 1 second. I'm going to get a drink of water. All right, and I'm back. Sorry about that. My voice has been super off today, so it's probably appeared in like this entire recording, but hopefully that water helps. Probably not, but whatever. We'll see. It makes it easier for me to talk. Anyways, let's talk about Apple's monopolistic top properties. Why is that so hard for me to say? I've tried recording it like 6 times now. Anyways, yeah, so the idea is that all apps on iOS are supposed to go through the App Store. That's how Apple has kind of set it up. Now, technically, you can jailbreak it to actually get other apps, and this is how most people use iOS devices when it comes down to like not safe for work content type of apps. And so if you wanted to install, like, let's say a not safe for work chat app, for example, a lot of that isn't allowed on the App Store. Now, Discord has kind of done this. I don't know if they actually got communication from Apple or not, but a lot of apps have been removed from the App Store for including not safe for work content in their like user generated stuff. And so Discord is probably acting ahead of time without getting removed to remove this sort of stuff. So basically what happens is if a channel or a entire Discord for that matter is marked as not safe for work, it will not be viewable on iOS. So you can still interact with everything else on Discord just as normal. You just won't see those not safe for work channels, or those not safe for work servers will be basically inaccessible to you. And that's essentially all it is. The guidelines for the iOS App Store say that you're not supposed to have pornographic content on it. And for people that have been on Discord long enough, you know that there is not safe for work content all over Discord in a lot of different types of channels. Now, most official channels kind of keep themselves away from it. We actually have a not safe for work channel, but our channel or our Discord our entire Discord server, that's the word I was looking for, isn't not safe for work related. So we shouldn't be blocked, but our not safe for work channels will be blocked. But if you have an overwhelming amount of adult content on your server as well, it will actually also block the entire server. And this can either be manually triggered by you registering the server as a not safe for work server, which you could do when you make the server, etc., or by Discord either getting reports or seeing that your not safe for work channels are most activated through their own sort of algorithm, etc. So yeah, basically that's what's happening. If you're on iOS, you will no longer see not safe for work content on Discord. So yeah, that sucks. And even if you jailbreak it, I doubt that you'll be able to, unless somebody makes like a workaround for one of the apps. But effectively, like, not safe for work content on iOS when it comes down to apps is pretty limited. However, one like user has actually pointed out that you can also just open Discord in a browser, and then it's just normal Discord. So yeah, it's kind of strange. It's kind of a little bit strange that iOS is blocking this sort of stuff when it comes down to that, because they don't allow you to actually download apps in any other way than the iOS store. And so people are seeing this as a major sort of rights issue, as in like, oh, why can't I have not safe for work content on my phone? If I want to download it, install it, why can't I? And that's where sort of Epic goes into their whole argument when it comes down to their lawsuit. So yeah, it's a big issue. And here's another argument for being able to sideload apps onto iOS, which you currently cannot do within the bounds of the user agreement. Instead, you have to jailbreak it, which is breaking the agreement. And Apple has argued that jailbreaking the device is illegal, which it shouldn't be, but that's a whole discussion for another time. So yeah, basically, if you're somebody who actually likes to look at not safe for work content on Discord on your iOS device, you probably won't be able to do that anymore, which kind of sucks for you, I guess. I suggest a web browser, because you can still technically open it in a web browser. And for people that are saying like, oh, well, since you could do it in the web browser, it's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter that they have the iOS and store and like lock it down and make it so that not safe for work stuff doesn't exist there. Or for people calling me a pervert, basically it doesn't matter, because eventually iOS could implement a system to make it so that their only browser that's allowed, Safari, could also get blocked, because they could easily block other browsers from working, which they have done in the past and currently actively do. So don't think that's like a safeguard. Don't think that Apple wouldn't do that. And a lot of people are kind of pointing this as like Apple sort of pushing these sort of ideas, like Puritan ideas or high Christian values, etc. And I think that that's probably not really what they're doing. I think they just don't like not safe for work content on their devices, and they're just kind of picky about it. And they've used that as a hill to die on. So they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep banning it. The idea of getting removed from the App Store was a huge thing when it came down to Tumblr, for example, because a large user base on Tumblr was from iOS. And when iOS was removed, or when iOS removed Tumblr from the App Store, it was a big hit to their user base, and they had to adjust and try to remove not safe for work content, which there was a whole other thing that I did a video on when it came down to Tumblr, when it came down to that. But like, it's a big deal when you get removed from iOS, because there are still a lot of iOS users, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think iOS is actually that great, and it doesn't offer any benefits to the user whatsoever. I guess it's easy to use for people that know how to use it, but just use an Android device. Let's be honest. Let's use Android. Like, it's so much better. It's not locked down. You can do whatever you want. You can sideload apps. Just use Android. It's so much better. Anyways, that's personal opinion, though. I know some people are super iOS diehards that just love everything Apple does, and so I'm controversial on that sort of point, but really there's no benefit to using iOS, and here's another reason why you probably shouldn't use it and stay on Android. Or, I wish Windows Phone stayed around. Is there any other phone besides Android that doesn't suck? I can't think of one. Anyways, let's move on to our main article for the day. This has actually been a pretty long discussion, so this is actually a pretty short main article, but I did want to talk about it to bring up some other things. I actually talked about this a little bit last week when it came down to joining hate trains, when we were talking about the sort of Game Pass version of Neir Automata and what was the other one? What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. The Evil Within. There we go. I'm good at remembering things. I have a terrible memory. Anyways, so this news article is titled "How a Reckless Lie Caused Huge Internet Drama from Path of Exile's Developer." Or for Path of Exile's developer. Wow, I cannot talk after an hour. Anyways, so no, Grinding Gears Games did not ban a disabled gamer for using macros to play the game. That is the subtitle on this article. So essentially, this is actually an interesting article that actually goes over all of the details about it and actually has links to all of the stuff in it. So definitely check it out in the description below or in our gaming Discord called the Broken Chat Box. Another link. I don't know why I'm talking about that so much. I should just say in the description. It's faster. But essentially the idea is that someone actually went onto Reddit and decided to lie and say they were a disabled gamer and say that they were banned for using macros because they can't play with like their other hand. They only have one hand that they can play with, therefore they need macros to actually keep up with the pace of the game. Now, this actually isn't the case. It's come down to the realization that this was actually entirely a lie. Not only did the Path of Exile developers look into it like immediately and like, oh no, that like we can't find a record of him being banned or anybody under this description being banned. They actually allow macros in Path of Exile, by the way. And so they actually have a bunch of these sort of systems in Path of Exile to make it easier to play for accessibility players. And they're definitely looking at trying to make the game more accessible for everyone. So basically, the idea is that this sort of idea, banning somebody like this, is completely against their design philosophy and how they want their game to be played. And so they're like, hey, we didn't do that. Like, that's not a thing that happened. And then later, this person who lied also made another post on the official forums saying that they basically lied and that they lied that they were a teacher, saying that they were trying to show how easy it is for the gaming community to be manipulated or how easy it is to manipulate people for rage. And if he is a teacher, that would be super surprising. That seems really, really destructive for a teacher to do. But I guess there's been cases to where teachers have done worse, so I guess it wouldn't surprise me that much. But at the same time, I think that was another lie, as the actual post of it got edited by somebody claiming that they actually had stolen the account or hacked into the account, and then it got deleted. Like, so it seems like there's some sort of mixed lying sort of cover-up system going on here, and I think that the person in question that was lying about it is probably seeking for attention in the wrong ways. I hope that somebody is looking out for them, because that's not something that a healthy person does. But I guess it's the internet. You can say anything you want and people will end up believing it eventually, because that's just how the internet works. If people want to believe something, they're going to believe it. False news, false information has spread very, very quickly in the last year, especially, like last couple years especially, and it's become more and more prevalent in the gaming community growing up, and Reddit becoming more of a conglomerate. That's not the right word. I don't know what the word is. It's become a big giant colossal beast of just people from all sides of the place, to where basically it can create echo chambers when this sort of thing happens. Now, of course, my totally favorite person, Steven Spawn, who I actually do not like whatsoever, obviously commented on this and tried to actually make a big deal out of it as well, saying like, oh, how dare they do this to a disabled gamer, and he started up a little bit of a rant, and yeah, it turns out that it was a lie, and he had to actually revert all of those. So anytime that Steven Spawn has to apologize for being a jerk, kind of makes me feel better inside, because he himself ain't great sometimes. But that's completely irrelevant to this news article. The idea of this sort of lying for an outrage sort of thing is actually becoming more and more common. We're actually seeing quite a lot of it pop up, and which is why that it's our main article this time around. The idea that you can actually just go on a subreddit, for example, and just outright lie about being banned, for example, and getting a bunch of outrage all of a sudden is a highly prevalent thing. The similar article that I posted last week, or talked about last week, when it came down to the Game Pass versions of Neir Automata, for example, being upgraded when it actually wasn't upgraded. It was a different version, but it wasn't actually a better version than the PC version we already have. That sort of gamer rage will spread very, very quickly. And this is not just in gaming, by the way. I don't want to make it look like a gamer TM sort of thing. This happens in all sorts of media as well. And so I kind of want to pinpoint this sort of example and highly suggest that you should read this article and kind of listen to what people were saying and what people were doing to see how easily people can actually be caught into this. Because even though this person was probably lying when they said they were a teacher, showing how easy it is to get the world to outrage over something so basic, it's actually true. It's something that we can learn about, and it's something that we should learn of. The idea that people will just see something posted and then immediately go into outrage without actually looking into it and sort of looking between the lines is kind of concerning. And this is coming from a place this isn't a news article, for example, that they were posting. It's news articles posting hey, this guy got banned or anything like that. It's not a reputable source. It's just some random guy on Reddit. Yeah, and it was probably just a throwaway account, some people were saying as well, which I don't think so, but it could have been. And so the idea is that, it's so easy to get caught off guard with this sort of thing if you're the type of person that wants to believe something. So if you're outraged by something and you see something about it being wrong or false or faulty or something along those lines, make sure to look into it in less of a biased fashion. You can obviously still be upset about things, but you have to remember to look at the details and remember that there's a lot of different reasons for these sorts of things. And when it comes down to bans specifically, you don't know exactly what that person was doing, or even if they got banned. A lot of people like to lie and say that they got banned for ridiculous things. I don't understand it, but this has become a thing inside gaming culture, and we see it quite a lot. People will claim that they were banned from X game for doing X activity, when in reality, they never actually got banned at all. And then there's also the other side of the case, which has been happening forever, to where people claim that they got banned for one thing, when in reality they were doing another. I've actually taken an active part in sort of debunking some of these activities, because they'll say they got banned for a certain activity instead of a certain game, and I'll do that activity inside that certain game and be like, nah, I'm fine, dude. It's sort of the thing. And then other players will also do the same thing and be like, oh, hey, no, we can just do this apparently. And that's sort of a thing that just happens all the time. So you have to continually look out for these sorts of cases. And so whenever you see something, even if it's a reputable source, always double check. Always end up cross-checking your facts, cross-check the sort of motive, the intentions of the user. Try to check where things are coming from as well. Check sources, for example. Now, obviously, for somebody just saying, hey, they got banned, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of sources. Maybe they could have posted a screenshot of them being banned or whatever, actually describing what they do with their macros and stuff like that. So that sort of thing could have obviously been put in to sort of make it seem more and more believable. But at the same time, this is just a good warning call to everyone to just kind of look out for these sorts of things. Look out for what you're reading and what you're hearing and stuff. And this carries over to my own content as well. If you hear me talking about these news articles, I had a news article just in this video where we're talking about Nintendo suing the Switch hacker, Gary Bowser. I thought that he was in custody because from my sort of knowledge of already reading this article and kind of remembering it, I sort of got it mixed up in it a little bit, because I remembered the other articles that I had discussions with people where they were in custody because they were under federal charges. Gary Bowser isn't under federal charges. I didn't cross-check. However, thankfully, I have corrected it in the video instead of having to leave a comment or something embarrassing like that. So yeah, there you go. So that sort of thing can happen all the time, and it's not always intentional either. This case from this article is somebody outright lying. They are lying to get attention. However, it's not always a lie to get attention. It's not always a lie either. Sometimes it's just an accident. So yeah, be careful about that and make sure you look out for these sorts of things and question things. Don't just blindly accept that people are mad about this thing and be like, oh, I should be mad too. Question why they're mad. Question if you should even care. Because the idea is that, yes, this would have been an outrageous case if they were banning a disabled gamer, but by bringing publicity to it and by questioning it, we do actually have a good stance from the developer themselves. The developer's been public about it and been like, hey, no, that wasn't our intention if it did happen. We found no evidence of it, but hey, that's not our intention. So some good things did come out of this, I think, in the end, even though it was kind of sucky, and I feel really bad for Grinding Gear Games because lies like this could carry on forever. I still remember lies about Final Fantasy 13 that still continue to be said to this day because they were in a Spoonie video. Like, how long ago was that? Like, that was forever ago. I can't remember how old Final Fantasy 13 is, and I'm not going to look it up at this moment. But yeah, so like, stuff like that can carry on for a very, very long time, and it can damage reputations for a very, very long time. So, in a sense, if you're listening to this as well, and you've ever thought about lying about this or making up some goof, make sure that it's a goof that is very obvious. And if you're thinking of lying, please don't. Lying sucks. Don't do that. So, yeah. In general, watch what you say about developers and games and look into what other people are saying and like look between the lines and look back and look at the motives between what's being said and what's being presented. It's important to remember that reality is different than what we write. So yeah, it's important to just keep your head up in the game and remember that not everything you read is one-to-one, and sometimes there's something going on. So yeah, there you go. And that's good advice for not just gamers, but for everyone in this sort of chaotic world. All right, this has been a long video, but let's go over some really quick, small little articles. This one's actually really relevant because we were just talking about it. Neir Automata is finally getting a fix on Steam. Oh my God, I'm psyched. Sorry, I like Neir Automata, it's a good game. It's super weird, super bizarre, and super anime, but I actually really enjoy it, but I haven't finished it yet. I haven't finished all of the plays, like all of the endings yet, and I wanted to go back to do it, but every single time I wanted to go back, the issues keep nagging me on, and I don't like having to use a mod to fix everything, so I'm excited for this. So it was announced in a tweet from the Nier series, or at Nier Game, an upgrade patch for the Steam version of Neir Automata is currently in development. We'll have more information to share with you at a later date. Now, I'm excited about this. I think that this is partially related to the fact that they're releasing another Nier game, Nier Replica or something? Replicant? It's either Replicant or Replica. I think it's Replicant. But the remake for that one, or I guess it's like an HD remaster. I can't remember if it was technically supposed to have changes that made it not an HD remaster, but it's mostly an HD remaster. Anyways, Nier's a weird series, so you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so it's actually getting an update on Steam, apparently, and I don't know if this is entirely because of the outrage, but if it is, that's super, super awesome that they listened to their, fans finally. It took them a couple years. Apparently the game came out in 2017, so yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, Neir Automata, fantastic game. Make sure to use the FAR mod if you play it before this Steam patch comes out. But yeah, definitely look forward to this patch. I will definitely be replaying this game when this patch comes out, because, oh my God, there's so many reasons why I want to come back to it. Talk about it in another video. All right, anyways, next one. Capcom says last year's ransomware attack exploited an old VPN that had been kept online due to COVID-19. So, long story short, the sort of, I didn't do a video on this or anything. Basically, Capcom had a large ransomware attack to where it actually got into their main development systems and was locking things down, and they stole a bunch of data and stuff. Now, according to Capcom, I believe they had a bunch of backups that were able to use. Like, they lost some progress, but not a whole lot. The main issue with it was making sure that everything was locked down, so they lost several weeks of development time due to this, theoretically. So it wasn't great for them, but at the same time, they didn't lose anything. They didn't pay the hackers or anything like that. So in this article, they also mentioned that they didn't actually have a settlement. They never had any contact with the developers. According to their communications with law enforcement, they were advised not to, and they followed that advice, which is good. Thank you for doing that, Capcom, because if you actually gave them any attention whatsoever, they would have latched onto that and continued to attack other ones. By not actually caving, you are basically telling them hey, you're not going to get as much attention as you want out of this, so they might have less incentive to do so in the future. But there's other ransom attacks that have happened like this, but according to Capcom, this specific one happened because of an old VPN that was kept online because COVID-19 was sort of putting a stress on their system. And so the basic idea is that their internal systems and their more secure featured systems that they had actually gotten up and running weren't keeping up with the demand for people working at home and working remotely for the COVID-19 pandemic, essentially. And so they kept on this old VPN that had some vulnerabilities that didn't get patched. And so basically, the hacker found this, went into it, and like, boom, hey, we got a bunch of access to like Capcom stuff. That's pretty cool. So like, yeah, that's pretty scary. So companies never cease to surprise me when it comes down to security and safety. They always skimp out on security and safety, and always probably will, because it saves them money, at least theoretically. I don't know if Capcom saved money in this case, but it definitely is something that they do. So featured company listeners, always think about security and safety first. That is incredibly important. I feel really bad for the developers that had their personal information leaked out of this, because that super sucks, because now some random person that they don't know has access to their data, and it most likely will be sold to other people, and that can be very, very scary very, very quickly. Anyways, next one. Nvidia's RTX Voice noise removal is now integrated into OBS streaming software. If you don't know about this, basically it's a streaming software. OBS is a streaming software. It's also a recording software. I use it for both. But the actual noise removal stuff is so that it can remove things in the background. It was originally only in the Nvidia broadcast app, but now it has been added into OBS, which is super, super awesome. A lot of Nvidia's APIs have actually been getting added into OBS, and they're actually super, super good. So yeah, like NVIDIA codec, I'm just going to call it that, for example, has been used in OBS for quite a while now, and it got fully integrated into it, and it works super, super awesome. And there's other Nvidia type stuff as well. So yeah, Nvidia's RTX voice noise removal, I think, is only usable if you have an RTX card or an RTX chip, more specifically. So it's not going to affect everyone, I don't think. Oops. Sorry, I just hit my mic and made it fall. Yeah, so it's not going to affect everyone, but it is a cool feature that's mostly usable for streaming. However, don't use it when you are recording. Record your audio as lossless as possible so that you can edit it in post and make it sound good and get rid of all those plosives. That's gonna sound terrible. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, next one. We only got 2 left. Hold on, we're almost done. All right, Twitch's bot crackdown cuts millions of followers from some of the site's top streamers. So XQC and Soda Poppin lost between 2 to 3 million fake followers. And so basically they just did a bot thing. A lot of people have been asking for this for quite a while, because basically what the bots do is they go in, they pretend to watch streams, they increase follower counts, that sort of thing. That's not saying that these streamers were doing that. They weren't like buying out these bots. They have much, much more viewers than that. So the idea that, you know, they would buy these bots is kind of ridiculous. So I don't think they were actually buying bots or anything like that, but other users might use bots, or viewer bots, for example, that like go through Twitch and stuff like that, will end up increasing their follower count and stuff like that. So yeah, they've just needed to cull it for quite a while, and it just ended up being a lot of accounts this time, therefore it made the news. This happens all the time, though. YouTube culls it every couple months, and it normally doesn't affect too many people. But every once in a while, it gets going on for too long, or maybe bots have gone past detection for too long, and so it ends up removing a bunch of accounts, which is basically what this happened, because Twitch just didn't care to remove them. But whatever, it doesn't matter too much. Apparently also it would affect Twitch's ad revenue, so some people are speculating that they didn't want to remove the bots because of that, but I don't think that's actually the case. And the last one on the list is Amazon's Lord of the Rings MMO is canceled. So, if you like Lord of the Rings, don't worry, this isn't the TV show. I have to state that because a lot of people have been misreading this and thinking that it's about the TV show. And no, the TV show is still going, at least as far as I know. This is the MMO that Amazon was producing, and it is no longer going to be in development. Basically, the dev studio, which I think is called Liu, has been bought out by Tencent, and they couldn't get an agreement with Tencent to keep the continuation of the game. So basically, oh no, Liu is the parent company. Athlon Games is the developer. My bad. But yeah, so basically, they got bought out by Tencent, and then Amazon couldn't make an agreement. Whether this is down to IP, whether it's down to revenue, or whether it's just down to management, we don't actually know anything about it. I assume it's probably like a mixture of everything. It's rarely ever just one situation unless you're like EA or Activision-Blizzard, to which case it's always money. But for everyone else, it's normally a bunch of different reasons. And this is kind of worrying for a bunch of different factors, for the fact that Amazon has had a lot of cancellations. So basically they've had Crucible, they had this game called Breakaway, which I had actually never heard of. And their MMO, their other MMO called New World, has been delayed several times. So they're struggling to get a game out. And Crucible actually released in like a pseudo beta state, and it was, oof, it was so boring. I originally planned to do a video on it, and I literally could not play more than 50 minutes of it. It was not a fun game whatsoever, and I tried so hard. Oh my god, that was a waste of time. Anyways, I feel bad for those developers because they did try, but they just couldn't get there. And it was going to require so much development time, and they just decided to cancel it. So yeah, speaking of so much time, this has been a really long news video. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. I tried to be a little bit more structured with this. I tried to actually do a little bit more of the pre-scripting stuff that I normally used to do, like the pseudo scripts. Because the last week I didn't do that whatsoever, and it was a mess. Honestly, it was just a complete mess. I completely apologize for that, but I feel like this week was hopefully a little bit better. Make sure to leave your comments down below because I want to hear them. You can also leave them over in our gaming Discord called the Broken Chat Box. We have tons of channels and stuff like that, and we do have a not safe for work channel that you won't be able to access on iOS because Puritan, not Apple, I guess. I don't really know. But anyways, make sure to like and subscribe if you like content like this one. I do release a video like this every single week, or at least plan to. It's only been 2 weeks, so I can't state whether or not I'll stay doing it, but I'm pretty sure I will. And I have other future exciting videos coming up. So yeah, I have some videos that I'm super excited to talk about. One of them has to do with crypto mining and how it is affecting gaming. So if you are interested in that type of stuff, make sure to subscribe and click the bell notification. Yeah, that's the first time I think I've ever said that, because that notifies you whenever a video comes up. And it like pops up on your screen from like your browser, and it's like, hey, by the way, this thing happened. Yeah, anyways, thank you so much for watching. I don't know how to end videos. I just sit back.